Throughout history, human ingenuity has constantly sought new ways to gain an advantage in combat. As technology advanced, so too did the development of increasingly outlandish and innovative weapons. Some of these weapons, however, were so ahead of their time, or so impractical, that they never saw the light of day, or their destructive potential was deemed too dangerous or ethically questionable to continue. Today, we're diving into the most insane weapon ideas that were ultimately discontinued, either due to their impracticality, ethical concerns, or sheer madness. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more fascinating content about history's most bizarre and thought-provoking military innovations. The Bat Bomb.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
One of the most outlandish weapons to ever be conceived was the Bat Bomb, developed during World War II. Imagine trying to deploy bombs with the help of bats. Yes, you heard that right. The idea behind this strange weapon was to load hundreds of tiny incendiary bombs into the mouths of bats, which would then be released over Japanese cities. The theory was that these bats would roost in the eaves of buildings and, as they naturally sought shelter, the bombs would ignite and cause widespread fires. The weapon was developed by Dr. Little S. Adams, who pitched the concept to the U.S. government in 1942. The weapon was supposed to be dropped in special containers that would open mid-flight, releasing the bats, which would fly to their target areas. Testing was initially promising, but logistical challenges and the unpredictability of the bats' behavior led to the project's cancellation. The Bat Bomb is one of the most bizarre failed weapons in history, and it never reached the battlefield. The nuclear-powered airplane. The concept of a nuclear-powered airplane is a terrifying glimpse into the future of military aviation that never came to fruition. During the 1950s and 1960s, the U.S. military explored the possibility of equipping bombers with nuclear reactors to give them virtually unlimited range. The idea was to create a strategic bomber that could stay aloft for days, even weeks, without needing to refuel. The logic was simple. If you can stay in the air indefinitely, you can threaten the enemy with constant surveillance or nuclear strikes. However, the idea of a nuclear-powered airplane faced insurmountable hurdles. First, the reactors were far too large and heavy to be integrated into a plane's structure. Then there was the small matter of radiation. The planes would have emitted dangerous radiation that could pose a risk to both crew members and anyone near the plane, not to mention the environmental hazards. As the project became increasingly unfeasible, it was ultimately scrapped in the 1960s. The idea of a flying nuclear reactor remains one of the most unsettling weapon concepts in history. The Gizmo. The Gizmo was an early Cold War-era weapon designed as a tiny, remote-controlled explosive. It looked like a cross between a grenade and a flying saucer, and was conceived as a way to infiltrate enemy territory without detection. Developed by the U.S. military in the 1950s, the Gizmo was intended to be a covert, one-man weapon that could be used to sabotage or take out high-value targets. The plan was for soldiers to carry these small explosive devices and then launch them at enemy vehicles, tanks, or other targets from a safe distance. The problem? It was too advanced for its time. While the concept of a small, portable drone-like device wasn't out of the question, the technology to make it functional was still in its infancy. Without sophisticated remote controls or miniature cameras, the Gizmo would have been ineffective. Testing was also difficult because the Gizmo's flight capabilities were limited. Ultimately, it was discontinued, with future military innovations looking to other, more practical solutions. The V-3 Supergun. If there ever was an over-the-top weapon idea from World War II, the V-3 Supergun might take the cake. Designed by the Germans, this colossal cannon was intended to be capable of launching projectiles over great distances. The weapon, often referred to as the revenge weapon, was meant to target London from a distance of over 100 miles. The V-3 was a massive artillery piece that could fire shells filled with high explosives, capable of causing unprecedented destruction. The gun, however, was plagued with issues from the outset. Not only was it gigantic, standing over 130 feet long and weighing several hundred tons, but it was also deeply impractical. The V-3 could only fire in one direction and would have required enormous amounts of resources to transport, maintain, and operate. Worse still, tests of the weapon resulted in failures, and the Allies were able to destroy the German facilities before the gun could be fully operational. Today, the remnants of the V-3 stand as a testament to an ill-fated idea: the Tsar Bomba. While this weapon wasn't cancelled outright, its sheer scale and destructive power meant that it was never meant for practical use. The Tsar Bomba was a Soviet-made thermonuclear bomb, tested in 1961, and it remains the most powerful nuclear weapon ever detonated. The bomb had a yield of 50 megatons, more than 3,000 times more powerful than the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. It was so large that it couldn't even be delivered by most aircraft, and only one was ever made. Although the bomb was never intended for combat, the Soviet Union wanted to show the world their nuclear might. The test was so powerful that it shattered windows hundreds of miles away and left a mushroom cloud that reached the edge of space. The Zar Bomba was a weapon of terror rather than one of practicality, and its existence was largely symbolic. After the test, the bomb was retired, and the Soviet Union moved away from such extreme weaponry. The Tsar Bomba's power would have been too devastating even for the Cold War's heightened arms race. The German Hansel Hs 132 during World War II, the Germans were known for their cutting-edge military technology. The Hansel Hs 132 was one such project, a high-speed jet bomber designed for precision bombing runs. What set this weapon apart, however, was its radical design. The Hs 132 was supposed to be a manned flying bomb. The pilot was tasked with guiding the aircraft into enemy targets, making it one of the earliest examples of a kamikaze-style weapon. While the concept of a flying bomb wasn't new, the Hansel Hs 132 was never completed. The project was abandoned due to the deteriorating war situation, and by the time the prototype was in development, Germany was no longer able to produce enough resources to continue. The Hansel Hs 132 would have been a terrifying weapon, but the combination of its one-way mission and the challenges of its development meant it was never used in combat. The Land Battleship. The Land Battleship was a concept developed by the US military during the 1930s, designed to be an enormous, heavily armored, multi-turreted vehicle that could storm across the battlefield like a mobile fortress. This behemoth would be equipped with cannons, machine guns, and even aircraft launch pads to launch attacks from multiple angles. It was designed to be an unstoppable force that could crush enemy fortifications and provide mobile artillery support. However, there were numerous issues with the Land Battleship. For one, it was incredibly difficult to move and would have required a massive crew to operate. The size and weight of the vehicle would have made it nearly impossible to transport to battlefields in a timely manner. Furthermore, it would have been an easy target for enemy aircraft or anti-tank weapons. The idea was scrapped before it ever came to fruition, but the Land Battleship remains one of the most outlandish military vehicle concepts in history. While many of these weapon ideas were too far-fetched or impractical to succeed, they provide a fascinating glimpse into the kinds of innovation and desperation that can drive military technology. Some were born out of a desire for overwhelming power, while others were products of their time, reflecting the technological limits and warfare strategies of their respective eras. Whether it was the Bat Bomb or the Tsar Bomba, these insane weapon ideas represent some of the most bizarre and fascinating moments in military history. If you found this exploration of forgotten military weaponry intriguing, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and let us know which weapon idea shocked you the most in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.